Israel has reacted sharply to the three European countries recognizing a Palestinian state.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu called it a move amounting to a reward for terror. Soon after, Ireland, Norway and Spain announced that they would formally recognize the state of Palestine on the 28th of May. Israel said it's recalling its envoys to Dublin, Oslo and Madrid and summoned the three European ambassadors as well.
Minister Israel Katz said his country will not remain silent. Israel also declared that it will cut off transfer of funds to the Palestinian Authority.
The intention of several European countries to recognize a Palestinian state is a reward for terrorism. 80% of the Palestinians in Judea and Samaria support the terrible massacre of October 7th. This evil cannot be given a state. This would be a terrorist state.
שמי שתומך במדינה פלסטינית, תומך בזוועות שהחמאס עשה ב7 באוקטובר, ותומך באיראן, ותומך בכל הציר הרדיקלי שפועל נגד קיומה של מדינת ישראל. אנחנו לא נשתוק ולא נוותר נגד מי שפועל תחת ריבונות ישראל.
Meanwhile, Germany has said that the West Asia conflict needed a political solution and not the symbolic recognition of a Palestinian state.
In order to achieve a solution for this horrible situation which we have to experience at the moment, there is no symbolic recognition needed but a political solution. What's needed for a solution to the Middle East conflict and for the two-state solution are direct negotiations on both sides.
Furthermore, Poland said that it backed a two-state solution to the Middle East crisis between Israel and the Palestinians. Polish foreign minister said that the existence of two states would be a stable and long-term solution. Poland recognized an independent Palestinian state in 1988.
We will support the efforts of the High Representative of the European Union and other countries that believe that some long-term stable solution is needed. And we believe that such a stable long-term solution would be the existence of two states.
So far, 143 of the 193 members of the United Nations General Assembly have voted in favor of Palestine joining the United Nations. Meanwhile, the White House has opposed unilateral recognition of a Palestinian state after Ireland, Norway and Spain announced that they would establish relations, but warned Israel against withholding funds in retaliation.
The entire world was rightfully outraged, but this outrage should be directed.
I think it's wrong. I think it's wrong on a strategic basis because withholding funds destabilizes the West Bank. It undermines the search for security and prosperity for the Palestinian people, which is in Israel's interests.
Now, for more on this, we're being joined by Edward P. Joseph, a political analyst and a senior fellow at the Johns Hopkins University School of Advanced International Studies from Washington, D.C. Thank you so much for joining us, sir. Always a pleasure to have you.
Good to be with you.
Sir, of course, you've heard the decision. What do you think will be the impact of this? Do you reckon Israel is getting increasingly isolated at the global stage?
I think there's no question that Israel is isolated. Israel's been isolated for some time. But the question is, what will be the positive impact from the decision by Ireland, Norway, and Spain to recognize a Palestinian state? Will it actually lead to any positive outcome? I think that's the real question here. And of course, everyone knows, the United States knows, President Biden knows that the only solution is a two-state solution. And the question is how to get there. And this recognition by Spain, Norway, and Ireland, it's hard to see how that advances the actual cause of achieving its two-state solution and achieving both security for Israel and justice, dignity, and security as well for Palestinians. It's hard to see that because if we look back, what is the obstacle to this? It's not that there's an obstacle only on one side. There's been an inability, despite intensive efforts led by the United States, that actually produced offers by Israel. The most recent one, and many people forget this, in 2008 by then Prime Minister Ehud Olmert, who made a concrete and apparently quite plausible offer, and the current president of the Palestinian Authority, Mahmoud Abbas, rejected it. Back in 1999, Yasser Arafat failed to provide a counteroffer to the offer put on the table by then Prime Minister Ehud Barak. And that was brokered, of course, by President Bill Clinton. And third, of course, we have the historical rejection back of the UN partition plan in 1947. So it's clear that President Biden is right. The terms that have to be agreed by the two parties in order to achieve what everyone knows is the only durable, stable, and fair solution, which is a state for each of these two peoples, indigenous peoples, in the Middle East, in Palestine and Israel. Please.
Mr. Joseph, also wanted to get your thoughts on this. We've spoken about the pressure that is there on Israel. It is isolated. You agree to that as well. Do you feel these kind of decisions coming in from other Western nations put some pressure on the US also to agree or to get to that point of agreeing to a two-state solution at the earliest?
No, not really. I don't think so at all. We see that the Biden administration is engaged in an intensive diplomatic effort with Saudi Arabia, trying to produce an approach, a diplomatic solution to this terrible war in Gaza, of course, launched back on October 7th by Hamas. And it's Hamas, of course, that has cheered this news of this decision by Ireland, Norway, and Spain. And we should remember here, one other point that is critical for your viewers to know, is that at every juncture when there was progress towards peace, including, ironically, in Norway, the famous Oslo Accords between Israel and Palestine, it was Hamas that sabotaged those positive efforts moving towards peace with violence. And here we see violence launched by Hamas, and Hamas is the one also cheering this and claiming this, taking it on as a victory, even though Ireland, Norway, and Spain say, oh, it's not about that. So inevitably, that's those are the dynamics. And no, to answer your question, no, I don't believe that the United States perceives any particular pressure. The United States, President Biden, Secretary of State Antony Blinken are engaged diplomatically very intensively, trying to produce this breakthrough with Saudi Arabia and Israel that would lead to a dramatic, realistic perspective for a Palestinian state. Please.
Tensions still continue to escalate in the larger West Asian region, of course, with Israel and Hamas at the core of it. Here's hoping that there is peace at the earliest. Thank you so much for joining in. That was Edward Joseph joining us from Washington, D.C. Always a pleasure speaking with you, sir.